We would like to acknowledge that the episodes in this series are produced on the traditional unceded lands of the Coast Salish peoples, which includes the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. We thank them for allowing us to be their guests.
Okay, so ask me the leading question.
Laara Sadiq is a beekeeper, a farmer, and an award-winning actor, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy our conversation.
So I was born and raised east in the burbs. Born and raised in the suburbs, just outside of the city, Ontario, Treaty 13 territory. Born at Mount Sinai Hospital, downtown Toronto. Moved with my folks to a little suburb called Thornhill. So born and raised there, a brief stint in New York. That's where I was born and raised till I was 18, going on 19. Pretty much ran away from home. Went as far as I could go in this country without falling into the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was Vancouver. I was done with the cold. I was done with those Eastern Canada winters, so I wanted somewhere that was warmer. I'd never lived on the ocean. I'd never lived near mountains.
Yeah.
Very different terrain for me. I grew up spending summers portaging and backcountry camping in places like Algonquin Park, Killarney, and winters were spent cross-country skiing.
Wow.
So my terrain, my landscape growing up was at once suburban, urban, and rural.
That's good. That's great.
It took me my whole life to realize that where I leaned in was the rural, not the urban, definitely not the suburban. The age of 18, got on a plane, flew all the way across the country by myself, landed up on UBC campus, and at that point I knew that I wanted to be an actor, an artist, or I wanted to make my art through acting, performing arts. So I did the BFA program at UBC.
Now, when did that happen? Did it happen like in high school or something? When you sort of got the bug?
It actually happened mid-high school, because up till that point I was absolutely positive that I was headed for med school.
Okay.
I was going to be an obstetrician. Okay. And I don't know why, but I had known that since I was pretty young. And then high school hit, and high school drama, and doing plays, and understanding that that was a way of communicating and storytelling that just really sit in my guts. And because of the way that I grew up, I had a lot of stories to tell. I just had no avenue to tell them, and in fact many of them were stories that were not told.
Right.
But I knew that I wanted to tell them.
Yeah.
So this was a form of expression, artistic expression, that was about storytelling and was also deeply rooted in a community process.
Yeah.
At some point mid-high school, decided this is what I wanted to do, wanted to go to university, do a fine arts degree, because I didn't want to cut myself off from other things I was interested in, like classical studies, like great literature, like, my sense of social justice, criminology, sociology, politics, all of those things. And I knew that if I went to NTS, for example, I would not have access to all of that.
Right.
And I wanted access
to
all
university.
of it. Because somehow even back then, how my life is manifesting now, there was something in that way back then when I was so young. There was something in there. There was a seed that was planted there that keep it open. Keep your wingspan wide.
Yeah.
There's something else.
Yeah.
There's an and.
Yeah.
There's many ands in life.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like I kind of knew that, yes, this direction as an artist, there's more. I don't know what it is yet. I haven't lived enough yet. There's more. Yes, there's more.
So, okay, so you were out at UBC. Now, when was that? What who were we talking about? Did you have
89,
mentors and people that you really
90,
thought were great?
91, 92. So 89 to 92.
Okay.
So, the white man's club. I learned a lot from those old white men.
Yeah.
Some of the things that have stuck with me all these many decades later. But Arnie Zaslov, Rod Menzies, Charlie Siegel, Gail Murphy, Errol Durbach, who I adore. Haven't seen him in years. That man's mind and his wicked sense of humor. Stephen Malloy.
Uh-huh.
God, all men except for one or two. God damn.
I know.
It blows the mind, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It blows
it does.
the mind.
Yeah, it was like that when we were out there too.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. It was actually more male when we were out there.
But yeah, Stephen Malloy, John Brockington, and Arnie Zaslov. I would say that I learned a lot from those folks.
Right.
Things that have stuck with me, not just as an artist, but just as a human being. There are things that have stuck with me. Anyway, it was a very, very interesting time. I loved being there. I also couldn't wait to get the fuck out. I felt so stifled by the end of it. I felt so stifled.
I'm trying to remember when we first met. What was the first show?
Born Yesterday
Born
at the
Yesterday
Playhouse,
was the
which was my first
in,
first big show out of the gate at the Playhouse.
Yeah.
Born Yesterday.
Yeah, okay.
You,
Okay.
Megan,
Yeah.
Alan Gray,
Yeah.
Bridget, John.
Yeah.
God, I can't even remember, but yeah, that was my first professional show. And yeah, I remember going home and saying to my then partner, saying, I can't believe I get all of them. I get all of them. It was great. It was irreverent. It was fun. It was
a lot of fun.
It was a shit ton of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. And that was my, that was my introduction to the Vancouver Playhouse, and my that was my my induction into the Playhouse family.
Yeah.
Which lasted for
And
years.
did you act? Did you find that as a theater actor that you were just working around here, or did you travel? Did you?
I traveled a little bit. I did, like every young actor. Yes, a lot in Vancouver. I sort of hit the ground running when I graduated. I mean, I don't know. If it's because I ran out of there as fast as I could, or. But yeah, it was shows around town. One of the seminal things that happened early on as well too was my being welcomed into the Caravan community, and that happened early on as well too.
Yeah.
And that really, it was that.
We should just take a second and tell people what the Caravan is.
So the Caravan Farm Theatre. Well, you.
Susie and I were both in it, and
Early days.
And we're fans.
When I hit the Caravan, so that would have been 93 maybe.
This is up in Armstrong.
The North Okanagan,
Yeah.
up in Armstrong.
Yeah.
So the idea was that at its inception, it was a rural life, self-sustaining, farming, breeding and raising Clydesdales, to work the land, and a theater company, a place where artists, a lot of misfits,
Yes.
artists and artists could converge. You know, people like Pete Anderson, Pete Mel Anderson, Peter Hall,
David Peterson.
Nick Hutchinson, David Peterson, Catherine Hahn, Molly March, Joan. Gillian Krant, like
Lindsay.
Lynn's, like just these fucking badasses, all converging out there in the North Okanagan on this piece of property, and making making theater that was what I consider to be like agitprop theater, and they toured. It was actually a caravan. They toured on the wagons. So when I hit the caravan, Nick Hutchinson was running it. And it was I believe it was the last tour they did. So we did Peter Anderson's Passion, which was his version of the Christ Passion.
Right.
Deeply Gnostic and other things. And we toured that through the Okanagan, through the Bible Belt. So that was my introduction to the caravan, and yes, the minute I put myself on that drive going down to that property, that was it for me. And the caravan remains, it's one of my true north homes.
Yeah, I love the caravan.
I've spent over the years large chunks away, and then chunks back, and chunks away, and chunks back. But that place sits in me. And there's a reason why it sits in me, and I've only come to understand that in the past 5 years. And that is my connection to things that earlier in my life I didn't have connection to because I didn't live that way, and I had been told that wasn't who I was, and I believed it. And also I assumed that my life as an actor was an urban life.
Oh, well, that's utterly logical, for sure. Most actors never get out of a big city.
Well, but what I'm understanding now is that the things that I connect to, like apiculture and permaculture and community in a different way and feeding people, and my draw, like since childhood, to rural spaces and places, it's all feeding the way I'm creating now. My training was very much, yes, we trained our bodies as well too, but there was this very much, I did feel very disconnected after my training as a young artist, and had to learn to connect. I had to learn to sort of, weave everything together.
Yes.
But all of that, like the ecology of making art, which, we can microverse it to our own bodies, or you can macro it out into, how to create a huge site-specific piece for 100 participants plus.
I've been thinking a lot lately about the idea that so many art forms have a formalistic. They have essentially boxes. We've learned that these are the boxes that these art forms sit in.
Yeah.
And it extends from something like just thinking automatically that a movie is going to be 90 minutes to 2 hours. Well, there's absolutely no reason for that now.
Those rules, right? It's all about those rules too.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There are these rules, and we've inherited a lot of these rules. It's like we've inherited rules in theater too, right? That there's got to be, there's got to be a beginning, a middle, and end. There's got to be, the curtain has to go up or something. There has to be, it can't be episodic.
Yeah, for sure. And my desire always, because I'm a contrarian and because I don't like rules, I never have. I buck it.
Yeah.
I buck it, man. I always have done that my entire life. I mean, I came all the way across the country by myself to buck something. I've been doing it ever since, right?
Right.
But yeah, these rules, these sacred cows, and it really sort of came clear to me, well, seeing the work of artists who really move me, who are buckers as well too. You know, Marina Abramovich. You know, directors like Peter Hinton, even like, you know, seeing Margot Kane's Moon Lodge for the first time. I'd never seen. I was 19, 20 years old. I'd never seen a show like that before. And this woman, you know, and this, so when we talk about the rules and we talk about the sacred cows, there are no sacred cows.
Yeah.
There
Not
are
really.
none.
Not really.
And
yeah.
I was really able to engage in that when I directed the Doll's House project for Studio 58, and went, this is an amazeballs story, and it's a story that resonates now for all of us, and it will resonate with these young people. Why? You know, so let's pick up the lenses that make sense to us. Let me pass them the lenses that make sense to them, and let's take that, you know, take it off the throne and sit it right on the land and examine it from a real human perspective, and not be afraid to go, you know what, like, maybe that scene is sacred, or maybe that line, it's not working, or we love this, we're going to make this work, repeat it 10 times, or so just taking the, you know, well, it's really decolonizing the work that we do. I mean, when we talk about classics, I always felt alienated by that for obvious reasons, but, you know, theater school, the great classics, and I would always think, but whose classics?
Oh yeah.
Because it's not from my tradition, and I'm a Pakistani-Canadian, and, you know, South Asian writing, literature, music, theater, dance, like rich tradition that goes way backer and backer before these classics.
A longer tradition of oral stuff than even.
Yeah,
you know.
and then it's also about, you know, it's not about ditching it. I mean, Ibsen wrote a kick-ass play in the Doll's House. You know, I'm examining I'm examining a Shakespearean piece right now that I want to direct that next. But I'm looking at it through there's reasons why these pieces endure, but they only endure when we are fearless about reinvestigating them, reframing them, sometimes tearing them apart, so that we can then strew all the pieces around and go, okay, maybe I put that there and that there and that there. You know, this whole notion about original practices and whose original practices, who, like, fuck, you know, there's a National Shakespeare Company in India. Whose original practices are we talking about if they do that, right? Yeah. So everything has value. Yeah. Everything, but when we raise things up and make them sacred.
Oh, then it kills it, actually.
Because the only thing that's sacred is breathing in and breathing out. Yeah. Being human. Yeah. That's all that's sacred. Yeah. You know, that's it. Yeah. Life and death are sacred. Everything else. Collective of people who have all made this happen. This Greenbelt operates as a CSA, really, community supported agriculture. So everyone puts in an equal share. I'm the farmer. I've taken on that responsibility, and it's my pleasure to do that, because I believe in food security, and I'm doing this various places in the city. Yes. Because it's what I stand for, and I have a great love for it. And I cook for folks as well too. So
I know you do.
Yeah.
And I sort of can't wait for the next dinner.
It's happening.
Oh yeah, I know you were saying.
We'll ride again.
Yeah.
We set the date, September 4th, Saturday, September 4th. Yeah. And it will be outdoors. That's all I can tell you right now. But it's a collab with the Arts Factory.
Right.
So the Arts Factory and Love Bowl, which is my end of it. We talked about this before, right before COVID hit. It was going to happen last summer.
Right.
And then, of course,
Yeah.
the cooties came along. So, yeah. So a few years ago, I met a couple of super cool, kick-ass women from Sydney, Matt Randall, Anna Brecken. They created this piece called The Second Woman, which was a 24-hour durational piece that they had written, created, directed, performed in themselves. The title's taken from a John Cassavetes film, and it's an amazing film with Jenna Rollins, and there's a scene in it that takes place between this man and this woman. It's after everything has fallen apart. It's sort of like what happens next, and it's very interesting, muscular scene between these two people. So Nat and Anna were interested in investigating all kinds of things. I'm still processing and filtering and understanding what the piece was about, even all these years later, and I come back to it often. Oh, okay. Oh, wow, yeah, I never realized that. Anyway, so they're exploring gender relationships. They're exploring the nature of repetition and labor in relationships, paid, unpaid, exploring things like fatigue. So they devised this piece where one woman does this scene. It's a mixed media, so multimedia, so there is a set. It's like a boxed in, scrimmed in, beautiful set, little tiny jewel box where the scene happens, and then it's all there's a technology that they developed where it's also filmed as well too, and then there's a screen on the side of the actual little set, and it's all live mixed.
Right.
Really.
So there's an actor live on stage.
There's an actor live on stage.
And then there's
it
a
is
screen.
also shot, so there are a couple of stationary cameras, and then there are two camera women, camera people, who are also roaming as well too, and they have these fantastic things that they designed that were sort of like these packs with these creatures on top of them that the camera would sit in, so they could. And this scene is performed repeatedly 100 times with 100 different men over 24 hours. And none of those men are meant to be actors. They do a call out to the communities that they do it in.
Right.
And so this repetitive experience happens, and for the actor, it's 24 hours. There is a sustenance break. There's a whole team waiting downstairs. I think every 2 hours there was a 15-minute sustenance break. Perrin Mapa would touch me up. They had such a different way that I was used to working. It was amazing. They'd come down, they'd give me notes.
Like in the middle of the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You've been doing it for you've been doing this, you've done the scene 50 times.
12, we're on hour 12, and they come down. Okay, so.
Take me back to being on stage now for 24 hours with 100 different guys.
So the idea
none of
is.
whom are actors.
The actors, so Nat and Anna have performed this various places all over the world. It was done throughout Australia. It was done in Taiwan. It was done in Canada. It's been done in New York, and I'm not sure where they're at with it right now. And the idea is, because part of it is also about identity and place and identity.
Yes.
Every city that they go to, they wanted a local actor to be the woman.
Sure.
Person from that place, because we're also asking questions about identity and space and home and all of those things as well too. So, and then the 100 men are called from the community. So various calls go out through various channels, and they don't want them to be actors.
Right.
And all these men are told is they're given this brief little script. It's like for them, there's a few lines, and they're asked, please memorize it, and just show up. So it was wild. I mean, I could talk forever about the experience. It was one of the most, I think it was one of the most incredible learning experiences I've ever had, and the learning had nothing to do with being an actor.
Right.
It was just about learning about human nature, learning about, being able to recognize default settings and, things that you kind of go, things we call generalizations. That's a generalization. Actually, when you're watching it happen for 24 hours and it happens again and again and again and again and again, is it a generalization to say, in this situation, most straight men will default to this? Wow. Like, to see it in play.
Yeah.
So, and then there's also that fascinating thing of what fatigue does to a human being and how we push through that. But the places that we go when our bodies and our systems become fatigued, and yet we're still required to, anyone who's parented, for example, knows what that's about.
Yeah.
Okay, haven't slept for 2 days, tough shit, because the baby will die if you don't, Things that shock, there's times where I was shocked, there's times where I was moved, there's times where I got fed up, there's times, very rare, there's only once where I felt afraid, and it quickly righted itself because this man saw his reflection in me. As soon as he saw it, he shifted, right? He almost fucking choked me out, but as soon as he felt the tension in my body, he all of a sudden, But also, from being in it, and also the team around me, I had two. So because it was 24 hours.
Oh, great. This is called filmmaking without a permit.
Well, and this is what happens.
Yeah.
When you live in a city.
I know.
Right? This
Happens
is just
all the
part of
time.
the ecology of the city.
Yeah.
Should I stop or?
No, keep going. It'll be good.
There's also the team around me about how we make art in the theater.
Uh-huh.
Or how we tell stories in the theater. I was so moved by the team I was working with. So the team was there 24 hours too.
Yeah.
So I had my two director-creators, Matt and Anna, and I just can't say enough about them. And the company was a company called Performing Limes through Australia. They do incredible stuff. Look them up.
Mm-hmm.
Anna Brecken, Nat Randall. And then because it was 24 hours and because we were in a union house, right? So there had to be two teams.
Two different, or
you can't work
maybe
more than
two, or
so
maybe
I had two seasoned. The other thing too, all women,
Uh-huh.
self-identified,
Yeah.
self-identified, or not all women self-identified. All women. What's the word? I'm losing it. I'm such
I
an
don't
idiot. When you are neither or, neither nor. Non-binary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-identified as female or non-binary.
Okay.
Or transgendered female.
Right.
So that was their thing too. They're only interested in working with that. Fantastic. Love it. So I had these two incredible women who were my stage managers, Toronto stage managers. Been in it forever. Just beautiful, warm. Like I'd come off stage after when I'd come off every 2 hours for my break, they'd be there. They had, my clogs there. I'd change out of my heels, my favorite shawl. They lead me down. They filled my dressing room the fridge was filled with things like, they'd asked me what kind of food are you going to need, and I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to eat that much. Like I did not.
Yeah.
So here are the things, energy that I, like all done just with comfort in mind. I had my hair and makeup team. There were the backstage crew, the runners, although they're not, who else was there? The producers from Harbourfront. One of them stayed up all night.
Wow.
She stayed up all night. They were just so there, present,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And then of course the audience. The audience, we've got a 24-hour wristband.
Right.
They come and go as they please.
Right.
So some people would come stay for a couple of hours, go have dinner, come back, another hour or so, go home, go to bed, get up, go to work, pop in at lunch,
Yeah.
go back to work,
Sure, yeah,
come
yeah.
back after
Drop in,
dinner.
drop out.
Like
Yeah, yeah,
wild,
yeah,
right?
yeah, really.
Wild,
Yeah,
wild.
good.
And there's one point it must have been like at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I came back from like a quick sustenance break, one of my 15-minute breaks every 2 or 3 hours, I think it was. How did I go that long? I had to remember to pee at the right times. The art of peeing
The
at the
art
right
of
time.
peeing at the right
Otherwise,
time.
oh, I guess I would pee my pants.
Yeah.
I guess. But I remember coming out at one point, and I think it was the one point where I sort of hit a witching hour, and I did feel a bit delirious. It was very brief.
Uh-huh.
It was very invigorating. It was very brief. I felt a little delirious.
Yeah.
And I came back on stage. I remember looking at, like, it was a packed audience, and I was like, what is wrong with you fuckers? Don't you have any, it's 4
You
o'clock
have-
in the
get a
fucking morning.
life.
Don't you have anything better to do? Like, fuck off.
Go away.
It's just where I was
Go
at.
to sleep. Just go to bed.
Where I was at. And then I had a very weird 2 hours. And I remember that was one of the ones where I came down and Anna was like, what happened? Like, well, I'm tired. They came down and they looked at me and they were like, well, how are you doing? I was like, I'm good. I feel great. I'm good. And they were like, throw your shawl on, come with us. And they took me out. They were smokers, and I'm a non-smoker,
Yeah.
but I like a smoke every now and then. So they brought me up the stairs, and they pushed on the emergency exit door, and
Oh yeah.
the sun was rising,
Sure.
just rising.
Yeah,
We were
yeah.
at Harbourfront, right? So right over the lake, and it was just the most, like, it hurt
Yeah.
to see it.
Yeah.
But it was so beautiful, and they lit me a smoke, they passed it to me, and they said, just stand here and just breathe.
Breathe the cigarette.
God, loved it. Such a rare guilty pleasure. And they said, just this sunrise, this
Yeah.
is what you need to see right now.
Yeah.
Just take it in.
Good.
So we stood there in silence for like 5 minutes, and then they were like, okay, let's get you down into hair and makeup. We've got 5 minutes left. Off we went. And it's why I was talking about the team that was
Yeah.
there constantly. This idea of radical kindness.
Uh-huh.
And the kindness that was part of the ecology of this piece, and coming off of that stage and having those experiences with all of those beautiful men who just, like, their courage, their ability to just go, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, I'm just gonna go do this, you know? And their generosity and their kindness to be there, and then going down and all these women, just the embrace of it. I learned so much about our community.
Yeah.
And I learned so much about radical kindness. And confirming what I have always known, but I believe, like, I'd stake my life on it now. Kindness is the key.
Yeah.
Kindness. That's it. There's nothing else. We make what we make. We grow what we grow. We connect. We fight. We dismantle. We reassemble. We do all of it out of a desire to be kind to the planet, to each other. And if we practice radical kindness in some way in our lives, in any way that we can, not heroic, not we're all ordinary people, but radical kindness. That's it, because that's how we hold each other as a community. And I don't just mean within our little community, I mean in a community, the global
The
community.
great big community.
It's the only way that we hold each other. We were talking about, I was on a panel a couple of days ago, and I was talking about advice that someone gave me about parenting a long time ago, which was like, no matter what, even when the shit hits the fan, always leave the porch light on for your kids.
Oh yeah.
Always
yeah.
leave the porch light on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's about that. It's about leaving the porch light on. It's about holding each other. It's about practicing radical kindness and canceling and ghosting and swiping and destroying people without looking them in the eye or lending a voice to it, all of that will gradually subside. It will not survive.
No.
It will not hold. It cannot hold, because what we are meant to do as human beings is practice radical kindness. When I was younger, I thought there's somewhere I'm supposed to arrive. There's somewhere I'm supposed to be at a certain point.
There's a destination.
Yeah. I mean, I had if you had asked me, 10, 15 years ago, am I going to be sitting here talking to my dear old friends in this parking lot that this community has supported me, and we have all supported each other in making, things grow out of polluted concrete, and that I would be a single mom raising an amazing teenage daughter, that I'd be a beekeeper, that I would be heading into, a weekend looking forward to, hiking in the woods and swimming in the ocean, that I would be alone. That someone like me would be alone. That all of it. If you told me 10, 15 years ago, I would have said, "Oh, fucking Stevie, no.
Get out." Yeah.
No, my life is not. That's not what I'm meant to do. That's not where we manifest every moment, I think.
Are you have you gotten your land? I know you're looking for land. You're looking to move out of town and all that.
The short answer is no. COVID made short work of that, because it made short work of my down payment that I had diligently socked away for 3 years.
Because you had to
just
not work.
Life happened, and then I realized as well too that there were some things, because this will be a solo venture, right? I'm doing this on my own.
Yes.
So there were some things. Land came up just before COVID hit, and the price was right, and I was about to travel out there and put an offer on it, and then 5 days later COVID hit, and I'd been dragging my feet. I'm glad I did drag my feet, because it wasn't the right place for me. There were other things I had to think about. I hadn't worked out yet. It was too soon. My daughter's not off in the world yet. Right. So it's close, but I'm now within the next year or two, for sure. I'm hoping, educating myself about all kinds of land stewardship models as well too, that aren't just about ownership. I'm not someone who can hold title to a piece of land that I know has been stolen. So I'm looking at other models and trying to figure out, okay, so how is that done? There must be other places where this is done. Yes, there are. I'm learning from those cultures, from those models. So yes, that's where I will end up, growing my vegetables, raising bees, or bee womanry. Bee womanry. Bee mama. Hosting artists for residencies, doing my long table dinners, and whatever else.
You were going to be a doctor. You had this
as a
illusory
kid,
idea.
I thought,
and you became a theater person and an actor, and you do a lot of voices for movies and stuff and you're a Vancouver actor. I mean, you do several things. All of us here do that, I think.
And I'm teaching now, doing all that stuff.
Do you have you? I know you still want to continue acting, but have you learned everything about yourself from acting? Are you done with that? Do you still need to act to learn about yourself? I guess that's what I'm saying.
I don't know that I ever did.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Right?
That's interesting.
I don't know that I ever did.
Because a lot of people do, I think.
For me now, acting is this very amorphous thing for me now, and I still do it. I do, my bread and butter is television.
Sure.
Still do it, listen, I got tuition looms large. And I want a little, I want a place to plant my seeds, right?
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, so I still do that. But you know, as an actor, in this past year, I've done 3 short films,
Right.
aside from television.
Yes.
I've done these 3 fascinating short films, one in Toronto, one here, and another one I just did, which is sort of a film theater hybrid, but I found the short film medium fascinating.
Right.
And then watching them as well too and going, wow, like these are like they're really like a series of breaths. They're just breathing, right? That's all you have time for is to breathe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know less about the craft of acting now than I did. I'm more comfortable and secure in it, but I have way more questions about it, and
Okay.
I've shifted considerably as well in terms of. No, maybe that's not true. Maybe I've always been there. I don't know. It's a mystery to me. I know how I do it,
Good.
right? I know how I do it, like,
yeah.
you know, the craft of it. I understand, like, the craft
Sure.
of acting has been
You know where
with
the
me.
tools are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The craft has, for whatever reason, the craft has been with me for my whole life,
Yeah.
right? Since I decided to engage in this. But what I think about it, the way I look, the lenses through which I look at the work that I do, just as an actor, it's different, just in the sense that, I don't know, it's not acting.
Yeah.
I realize too. Acting is not acting. Like, you don't act.
Yeah.
It's about sharing stories, I think. And it's just about listening and honestly responding, which, yes, is what they
being
teach. I
truthful.
mean, that's Stanislavski, right?
Yeah.
But we don't really learn that. We're not really taught that.
Yeah.
You know? I had one of my actors say to me when I was directing the last piece that I directed at Studio 58. So beautiful student actors. They're just gorgeous. They're beautiful. And I was talking to them about honesty and truth. You know, I said, strip away all the artifice, strip away everything. I want honesty. That's your biggest, bravest move. That's what we will lean into as an audience, and that's how you tell the story,
Yeah.
right? And she came to me afterwards and she said, you know, I'm a little confused because everything we're being taught here is to make bold choices. You know, make your boldest choice. Like, you're wasting your time here if you're not making bold choices. And I said, but the boldest choices that we make, the scariest ones, they're the most honest.
Yeah.
They're the most truthful.
Yeah.
The two things don't stand in opposition. This is the one and the same thing. They rely on each other. It's a symbiotic relationship.
You don't want to make a bold choice that's a lie.
Yeah, but and even, you know, they're young. They're
Yeah.
learning. They're also, you know, what they're exposed to now as well too. They're gonna have to go out and find, you know, like, you know, watch those fucking Charlie Chaplin movies.
Uh-huh.
He was brilliant.
Yeah, sure.
He was
Yeah.
brilliant. You look at his eyes in those films. You look at what's happening to his, you know, to his right hand while he's doing something else with his. That man was full of vulnerability and truth and mistake and fuck up, and it was, you saw it. The Charlie Chaplin often had tears in his eyes.
Yeah.
It's earnest,
Yeah.
you know. So they need to go out and find all that stuff. But it was just interesting that the whole idea that to be bold, you have to be a wanker or a liar, or you have to. It's hard because these days, I don't want to sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but, you know, the amount of, like, the filter, the screen, the neutering, the reducing that happens because of social media, because
Oh, yeah.
we're cut off from our 5 senses.
Yeah.
Even the visual, even the looking at is cut this big.
Yeah.
Like, how do you can't even fit a beating heart in that.
Yeah.
So how do you, we're not required to see, touch, smell, taste, hear the sounds of each other. And so the whole notions of what is courage, what is vulnerability, what is humility,
Yeah.
what is it to fight, You know, what is it to practice radical kindness? What is it to scream and shout and say no? What is it to throw a fucking brick through Walmart because your kid may not make it through the night? Like, all of that stuff, if we're cut off from our senses, there's no way we can possibly understand what any of that is. It's not going to be in a fucking hashtag. It's not going to be in a fucking all caps exclamation mark emoji. And everyone does what floats their boat, right?
Sure.
Like, this is, for me, I'm talking about for how I choose to live my life and what I choose to send into the world.
Sure.
For me, without my five senses, and then how do we build compassion if we can't smell it?
Yeah.
How do we nurture love if we don't know what it tastes like?
Yeah.
You know, how do we learn to be courageous if we don't know what it feels like to hold it in our hands? You know, and you know, if I can't lick it, how do I know what I'm pushing up against?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So, it's hard. Like I mentor younger folks now, teaching them, directing them, working with them, and it's hard for them.
Yes.
The world is
I'm
a
sure.
hard place for them.
Oh my God. You know, yeah, I mean.
But I think part of that
Yeah.
hard is just we cut off from your senses.
Yeah.
You know, and then we lose compassion, and then we, you know, and then people do. I've had it done to me. You know, someone will fucking bury you alive over the course of a couple of texts.
Yeah.
It's just like. Anyway, neither here nor there.
Sure.
You know, love it or leave it. I choose to leave it. And those who love it, you know, more power to you. Go for it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I know nothing. That's what I'll say categorically. I know nothing.
What? I was hoping that with all these cameras and this microphone that you would provide the answer.
In the days when they bred them,
Yeah.
I remember my first summer there, tech rehearsal stopped because one of the mares was foaling and it was all hands on deck because she was having trouble.
In, and the entrance was almost like a spiral, so you came into it